The sun will shine again. I feel like that was the perfect song. I'm talking in the background with some of the people, and I was just like sharing a little bit about the hiccups that have been coming up for me over these last couple of days, and the Zoom crapping out yesterday, Facebook crapping out today, and it's all part of the expansion. We will prevail. The sun will shine again. It is okay that these things happen. Not a problem at all. All right. Well, without any further ado, our next speaker, Nathan Kohlerman, which has become a dear friend of mine as well. I was sharing about this yesterday. Like, I am so blessed to have all of these speakers in my horizon. And I've grown such a bond with every single one of them. Like, we'll text all throughout the day and be like, hey, what are you working at? How can I help you? How can I support you? And I was just telling all of the teachers yesterday, I'm like, we're going to create a monthly mastermind where we can all collaborate and share and just bring light to ourselves and to others as well, and helping you as the community as well. So Nathan Kohlerman is a devoted father of three, transformational alchemist, public speaker, minister, and co-founder of the Active Intention Collective, co-host of the Active Intention podcast, and founder of NeuIntention. With a diverse background in transpersonal psychology, integrative somatic therapy, metaphysics, energy medicine, mysticism, leadership, and shamanic sexual healing, Nathan has worked with professional athletes, executive leaders, companies featured on the Inc. 5000 list, men's organizations, entrepreneur, philanthropist, all the things, coaching you how to align, heal, and optimize the mind, body, and spirit using the NeuIntention Method. Today, he will be talking exactly about that, the NeuIntention Method and quantum embodiment. Quantum embodiment is to bring the quantum into our three-dimensional living existence using the 9 pillars of the NeuIntention Method. We will explore what the NeuIntention Method is, how it can help you tap into the quantum, and how to embody the teachings immediately. Hello, Nathan.
Hello, Ania. Thanks for the warm welcome and the beautiful introduction.
Always lovely to connect and to see you again.
It's so great to connect with you all here. I see a couple people's faces who are live. I see a couple pictures and photos. I'm sure if you're driving or engaging in other opportunities, rest assured that we'll call it a journey that we're about to take can be heard, seen, as long as you're present. The invitation is just to, when you hear something, right, it's just allow that to register, right? Because that really is what we're talking about here. When we talk about quantum embodiment, we're really talking about the quantum, right? Everything that exists, everything that is available, everything that is what seems to be ethereal and also is uniquely tangible in our own unique experience. And the reason I say tangibility is because a lot of the concepts, philosophies, theories, studies even, where science will prove or disprove, of course, both sides of the equation, every possibility exists, that is in the quantum. And we're really in a space right now in society, in a time where we can recognize that mystery is simply the science that we haven't really discovered or we can't really prove quantitatively. And that's why when we look at what I call the NeuIntention Method, the model of transformation that I've created, it's bringing things forward in a tangible form so we can uniquely express ourselves, so we can connect to these things in the ways that we feel are true to our experience, in the ways that we know best, and how we can create long-lasting change and impact, not only for ourselves, but for the collective, right? I see the collective as the expression of the quantum, right? We talk about quantum entanglement and how we're all connected, right? But what does that really mean? It means that in the process of our human experience, we have to go through the process of individuation. I coined that term from Carl Jung. He coined it. I took it from him, right? Let me correct that, because that's a really important part, is honoring the duality and then coming back into unity, right? We have to acknowledge that both exists, all exists. And when we recognize that and we bring that forward into our awareness, the next question that most people ask is, well, how does that look? And how do I do that? And what's the outcome? And that's where a lot of people get stuck. That's where, when that stickiness starts to happen, we start to disconnect, we start to disassociate, we start to dysregulate, and then follow back into patterns of familiarity. And that's where we actually lose our intention, is in the stuckness, in the craziness, in the scatteredness. And my mission really here is to bring more clarity to what these things mean for you, knowing that what I'm about to share with you has already been taught. It's already being taught in a number of different ways. And I share that because I believe in full transparency. You can find all of this information with a quick search, right? And I'm simply here as a mirror, as a reminder that everything that I'm about to take you through is already within you. Everything that I'm about to take you through is already within you. And that's why I say that the NeuIntention Method is designed to awaken your inner wisdom and embody your inner greatness. And really, when we start to look at that, we can take everything in the quantum, everything in the ethereal, we can bring it into our physical body, into our three-dimensional reality. And that is where we actually have command, right? We don't have control over anything, because control is when we seek external circumstances for a feeling or a sensation of internal safety. Whereas command is everything summoned from within us, and we're able to step out into the world and command where our energy goes at any given moment in time that we choose. And that's one of the pillars, is inner authority. And I'm going to share with you this here. And I'll be looking here because I have another screen up and running. So when we look at the NeuIntention Method, I've broken it down into a tertiary model, right? Tertiary, there's three parts, three pillars. We can call it the mind, we can call it the body, we can call it the soul, the spirit. I believe the soul and spirit are different. Yes, the soul is what's within us, spirit is what's up above, to what I believe to be true. And when you look at all of these things, when we look at everything in the realm of somatics, of psychology, of spirituality, it kind of follows along the trend of what we would call the biopsychosocial model, from when we start looking at things in a collective view. And that is then the quantum. And then when we look at things at an individual view, we can break it down into the soma, into the psyche, and into the spirit. And this is really what I consider to be a simplified spiritual and human experience. Because everything in our soma, right, by definition, soma is of the body. It's our living wholeness. And everything that goes into our living wholeness, there's a lot of stuff, right? We have organs, we have neural networks, we have a complete and beautiful design, an integrated design of physiology and biology that is capable of doing a lot of amazing things, right? Because our body has the innate ability to heal itself, just as we do, right? Which doesn't really require any external resources, like I was talking about before. And this is focused on summoning everything within you that already exists. And really how this looks is following whatever path feels good for you. If you feel more comfortable, if you feel like you're in a position of your life where you are really focusing on your body, on your health, on your wellness, on your well-being, on your nervous system, on, just reconnecting to the beautiful thing that your soul resides in, then that's where you would start in the soma. And just like Claire led through a breath work, right? Respiration. That's the first step, right? That is the vital function of our body, the only function of our body that we do both consciously and unconsciously. It's the only thing. It's what makes everything work. And that is how we actually bring into the present moment. That's how we bring everything into the present moment. Because when we breathe, what happens? We produce a sensation, right? The sensation can come in the form of an emotion. And then with that emotion, every emotion, in order to ensure that it doesn't get trapped, that it doesn't get stuck, that we don't separate ourselves from our experience, we have to express it, right? It's very simple. Breath, sound, movement. Breath, sound, movement. And if we continue to follow that very simple model, we're able to come to what I would call a unified state of completion, because we're honoring every part of our human experience. That is what we're here to do. We're here to breathe. We're here to live. We're here to feel. We're here to move. And if we're not doing that, then we're missing out on a lot. We're losing presence. And that's focused right in the middle, right? With that logo, right? That's presence. That's integrity. And when we move from the body, right, we can go in different ways. We can apply spiritual concepts, or we can apply psychological concepts. And again, you might start, maybe you're very mind oriented. Maybe you are very logical. Maybe you lead more with your masculine, right? Because I believe the psyche is our masculine, the soma is our feminine, right? The masculine is awareness, the feminine is sensation. And that's what also allows us to come into a unified state of completion. And I'll keep using these terms over and over and over again, because we can really simplify it down into these key terms, concepts, and philosophies, pillars that I'm sharing with you today. And then when it comes to the psyche, of course, we all know that we're conscious. We all know that we have a subconscious, and we all know that there's an unconscious part too. And simply put, the conscious is the stories that we tell. The subconscious is the patterns that we follow, the patterns that we've learned, the patterns that put us on a path of a non-state of unified completion. It's our addictions. It's the things that create very loud distortions in our life, and we're able to recognize them through the form of symbols. And the things that we're maybe not aware of is in the unconscious. It's our shadows. And quite often than not, what resides in our unconscious is the piece or the part of us that wasn't expressed in the soma. It's the part that was pushed away. It was the part that was repressed. It was the part that was suppressed. And that's when we become depressed. That's when we start moving into shadow, and we start making decisions and taking actions that are not in alignment, not in integrity, that take us out of presence. And it actually takes us away from this model. And you can see in this middle piece here, that coherence, right? When the mind and the body come into a unified state of completion, we come into a state of coherence, right? That's when we come back into the heart, right? We use heart coherence, heart rate variability. We can measure these things. We can measure the effectiveness of your nervous system. We can measure the effectiveness of your actions. Because again, a lot of the things out in the ethereal world, what I would consider to be in the quantum, they sound nice. And that's where we get to bring in data. We get to bring in certain measurements. This is where we get to actually assess, right? Because if we're not assessing, we're guessing. I'll say that again. If we're not assessing, we're guessing. And we're going off of who we once were and how we identified ourselves in the world, and then how we shaped or modeled our beliefs about the environment that we put ourselves in every single day. And if we're not bringing data, if we're not reflecting, if we're not introspecting, we're missing out on a lot of opportunities. And again, all roads leads to nowhere, and everybody's on their path. Great, let's honor that. And let's empower you with a way on how to do that in a very simple, effective, and tangible way. So that way, the life that you're creating, the energy, the information that you're pulling from the quantum is being put forward into a sustainable and practical environment and a practical action that produces results. We're all here to produce results, no matter what that is. And there's a lot in the space right now that results-driven mentality is toxic. And that's also dependent on the way we define it. Right? So the invitation here to everything that I'm saying, if it's challenging your current belief system, right? Ask, what is here for me? How do I define these things? How do I relate to them? Because essentially, this model, the things that I'm saying, it's providing an opportunity. It's providing an opportunity to look at this very simple model that's only composed of 9 pillars and asking, what does soma mean for me? What does my psyche mean to me? What shows up in my life as conscious? What shows up in my life as subconscious? What shows up in my life as unconscious? And these become the models or pillars of inquiry, right? We can start inquiring, what is next for me? What's here for me? Because when we start inquiring, when this happens, it brings us back here, brings us back into presence. It brings us to an opportunity where we can embody integrity. We can embody our experience and where we're at and honor that every step of the way. And that is also honoring our expression and where we're currently at, right? Again, nothing I'm saying or sharing with you is nothing different than what's already being talked about, right? This is just a model that you can use, right? It's a model of embodiment. And when you bring that forward and you then start applying the spiritual pieces, right? Because we're all living a spiritual experience. We're all spiritual beings. I don't believe that there are those who are conscious or awake or those who are more spiritual than others, really, because when we want to talk about the quantum, we can dissolve the illusion of separation and know that we're all unified. We can dissolve the illusion of separation and recognize that everyone in our life, everyone who we encounter, is providing an opportunity, right, for us to inquire, to lead with curiosity, that childlike curiosity that some of us once lost a long time ago because of a story we may have told, because of something that wasn't expressed, right? And these are reference points, right? They're reference points that we can come back to. And everything in what I see in the spirituality, we'll say what's being talked about now, there's a lot of new age concepts. There are a lot of ancient wisdom concepts. And if we can track the trajectory of history, we can follow the patterns, the themes, the teachings, right? We can look into the Kabbalion, we can look into, right, different religious philosophies. And if we really study and look at the texts, and if we start following the themes and the patterns and the symbols that are contained in all the stories, we're able to really boil it down to these three things when we talk about energetics, metaphysics, and inner authority. And the way I see this is that the energetics that are always existing, right? There's a lot of talk right now about masculine and feminine. And when we boil that down and reduce it down to its most simple of form, we can come back to what I referred to earlier, our awareness and the way we sense things, the way we feel things through the world, right? And then we're able to establish a sense of identity, a sense of expression. We're able to identify how we choose to show up in our relationships. We can choose how we identify and how we choose to show up in our roles or our positions when we're out serving the world, or when we're serving our community, when we're fulfilling our destiny. And it really simplifies it, really simplifies it into two things, right? Positive, negative, optimism, pessimism, right? Polarity, right, to me, is the energetic expression of duality, right? This is where we can start to really tune into our own energy, our own frequency, and then we can go into the metaphysics, right? Because again, to me, and based on what I've studied, based on what I've learned, based on my experience after working with over 1,000 people at this point, when this is followed in this direction, right, coming back around, when we start to acknowledge the duality, it makes it a lot easier to come into unity, to come into a unified state of completion, to determine who we are, what we are here for, and how we express ourselves in the world. And that's really what it comes down to. And that metaphysics piece is when we can start seeing the grand scheme of things. This is where we start reaching out into the quantum. We start asking what I call metaphysical inquiry, where what is my experience showing me right now, and how is it being reflected into the world based on the reality that we're all co-creating together? And how can we come all back into unified state of completion, right? As a society, as a collective, as a global movement, as a global community, because that's fucking important. Excuse my language, but that's fucking important, right? And I say all the time that our immunity is in our community. And if we're not acknowledging a metaphysical piece, if we're not asking the questions on how it relates to the quantum or the collective, we're missing out on a lot of our experience, right? And this is where we start looking at time, we start looking at space, we start looking at creation, identity formation, illusion, separation, unification. We can start applying and asking these deeper questions, which allows us to show up more in service, to ask those childlike, curious questions. And when we establish as above, so below, as within, so without, right? And we start looking and bringing our awareness and our attention back into our 7 directions, the east, the south, the west, the north, above, below, and in the heart, because we found our coherence here. Those 7 directions leads us to our inner authority and what I believe to be our heart-led leadership, right? Because our heart is the most powerful frequency emanating organ that we have. It beats even when our body dies. And that says something, that means something. And that thing that still beats when your body dies can still save the life of another. Right? Our inner authority is what keeps us going. It's what drives us to show up for something greater than ourselves. Our inner authority is the purpose that we serve that's greater than our own experience. Because again, we have a self-inquiry model where we can define purpose. For instance, my purpose is to fully experience what life has to offer me and honor my humanity every step of the way. And everything that I do in my life outside of that falls underneath that umbrella. And when we can establish that inner authority, everything else from the quantum pulls and magnetizes towards you, right? And it can be that simple. That's how we find coherence, connection, and clarity. It's when we run through this model and we start asking the questions, when we start really going deeper into our experience, and when we start simplifying the complexities that we created just to overcome them, because that's what we were taught at one point in time, whether it was this life or last life, we can acknowledge that what's here, what's now, what's in the present moment is important. And what I'll leave you with here is that it's things like this that I feel the world needs now more than ever, right? I feel the need to share things that are simple, because we make it so much fucking harder than it needs to be sometimes. We make it so much harder than it needs to be. And again, everyone's on their own path. And I do believe that there are times and there are spaces to eject from our bodies and unlock DMT and go into the quantum to gain information. That's beautiful. The question then lies, what are you going to do with it? And how does it apply to these 9 pillars of the human experience? And what results does it produce in your life that bring you back into a state of bliss, joy, happiness, excitement, ecstasy, and overall wonder of what the world has to offer? And how can you share that with someone else? How can you impact someone else? How can you see someone and allow yourself to be fully seen in your full expression through your masculine, through your feminine, to be seen in your shadows, to be seen in your patterns, to be seen in your addictions? And what happens then? What's possible, right? Because we heal in the presence of an empathetic witness. And in order to lead ourselves, we have to go in, and we cannot lead others without leading ourselves. And that requires us and demands us to show up with presence and integrity, to be fully aligned and fully embodied in everything that we know to be true, everything that we hold close to our heart, everything that is in alignment, in congruence with our virtues and our values. Because if not, we're slapping God in the face. That may seem strong. And again, based on your belief, if you use a different word, different pronoun for the thing that is greater than our human minds can comprehend, use it. I use it as a placeholder. And it's a really beautiful opportunity when we can commune with that higher spirit, that greater spirit. And what I'll leave you with here is to stay in your prayers. Whatever prayer means to you, whether your prayer is in a meditation, whether your prayer is found in your breath, whether your prayer is found on your knees at an altar. All right, when we come back to prayer and we give the things that seem so complex and so challenging to overcome, when we give that thing to something greater, things become so much easier. Things become so much easier. And if you may not believe, right, in the God theory, I'll call it, go to nature, Nature has all the answers for you too, has all the lessons that we need. And truth be told, everything that I'm showing you here is an expression of nature. This is just a manifestation that our human mind can comprehend. So that way we can go into the quantum to receive that information and then embody that shit. And then we can actually go out into the world and create long-lasting change that leaves legacies. And with that, I'm complete.
Mic drop. Every time I hear Nathan speak, like, my soul gets on fire. Connect back to yourself and leave that lasting impression that every single one of us is here to make. One of my all-time favorite things to say is, us as humans, we overcomplicate things. Pull back and truly connect to the basics. Connect to nature, connect to your prayer, like Nathan was saying. Go outside. It's not that difficult. We overcomplicate things as human. Thank you so much, Nathan. I honor you and I appreciate you as always. All right, let's take a quick 2-minute break and get the last beautiful speaker of the day on, and then go to a Q&A. If anyone is watching, if you have any questions for any of the speakers, drop them in. We will be going back. We got kicked off of Facebook, so anyone who is watching, or only watching live on Zoom, ask your questions in here. We'll be coming back for the Q&A in just a moment. Thank you, Nathan.